Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Tips and Tricks Weekly number 3. Over the last couple of weeks, we have set about trying to help you plan a trip to Las Vegas. Picking a good time to go, a good length of time to go, where you might want to stay, how to choose a hotel. Today we're going to talk in a little more detail about sort of planning out what you're going to do on your trip. And, this can apply whether you're going to be there for 3 days or 3 weeks. And I did get some messages from some of my friends overseas who objected to the idea of a 3 to 5 day trip. And if I was traveling all the way from the UK or Australia, I probably would stay along a little longer than 3 to 5 days myself. So regardless of how long you're going to be in town, there are some tricks and some ideas that you may want to execute to make a better Vegas vacation. I do have to raise my right hand here. I don't know if there's any holy books in the neighborhood, but I am not a planner. I see people on social media, sometimes good friends of mine, and they may have an upcoming trip to Las Vegas, and there will be some kind of very detailed itinerary of what they're planning to do. It may be listed out day by day with 5 or 6 sort of key items. Or it may even be set up on a little calendar where it says, Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday dinner, Monday night, that sort of thing. And have some very specific things planned for each of those times. If you're the sort of person who typically does that, then you're probably going to do that when you go to Las Vegas. I would advise, though, particularly if it's a first or time trip, or if you haven't been in some time, to allow a lot of, I guess you would call it sort of free time in that itinerary. Because to me, one of the great joys of Las Vegas, and it's particularly true when it's a place you haven't been before, is simply wandering around and responding to the visual stimuli around you, and there's so much of that. And so I hate to have people walk into a Las Vegas trip with just these sort of blinders on and say, we're going to go from here to here to here to here. I don't think that's really necessarily a great way to go anywhere, to be perfectly honest. But again, if that's who you are, then you're probably going to incorporate some elements of that. I don't really think Las Vegas is a place which just has a list of, say, a dozen attractions, and your trip should just be making your way from one to another. For one thing, most of the attractions are not what I would call time intensive. I can go see the Bellagio fountains, maybe even a couple of times, and it's not going to occupy really more than about 15 minutes to 30 minutes of my time. As opposed to, say, going to an amusement park or a museum. And Las Vegas does have, a kind of an amusement park, I guess, and several museums. So those sorts of things you can stretch out into an afternoon or multiple hours. But looking at the Mirage Volcano for as long as it continues to go off, the Bellagio fountains, even the light show downtown, which obviously you can watch many different iterations of that. But none of those things are, to me, the reason you go to Vegas. There's something you see when you're there. And so I would just advise that what the best way to sort of plan out a trip to Vegas is to allow a lot of sort of free time. Put yourself in different parts of the city, different parts of the touristy zones, and just explore and see how you feel about things. Now, I will say that if there are particular things that you simply must do on your trip to Las Vegas, perhaps you simply must go see the Hoover Dam. Well, you're going to need to, allot probably at least an afternoon to that. Whether you rent a car or whether you take a guided tour. So you're going to have to set that up in advance. You're going to have to block out a period of time, and that's what you're going to do. It may also be that there's a particular show or shows that you simply feel like you must see. There's a lot of times that you'll get to Las Vegas, particularly if it's not super busy, where you may be able to get discounted tickets at the last minute and see really some very popular shows at a very reasonable price. But if there's a specific show or shows that you simply must see, then you definitely want to plan that out in advance, because there are times that the more popular shows will sell out. Again, there's particular destinations or activities, if there's particular shows, if there's particular restaurants that you feel like you must eat at, you're a big Gordon Ramsay fan and you simply have to go to Hell's Kitchen, well, again, a very popular restaurant, so make sure that you, in those cases, are planning out some time and planning in advance by making reservations so that you don't feel disappointed with what you do on your trip. So if it's going to ruin your trip not to have something planned out, then that's the kind of thing you do want to plan in advance. When you are looking at specific activities, I recommend just trying to bundle things that may be in the same general area. This is one of the reasons that I like to change hotels from time to time, particularly if I'm going to be in town for 5 or 6 days. Because, if you kind of stay at one property, then the things you're going to see on a day-to-day basis just by coming and going aren't going to change very much. But if you spend a few nights on the Strip, a few nights downtown, or a few nights on different parts of the Strip, then you can sort of isolate things that you want to see and do to coincide with the areas that you're going to be in when you're staying there. That being the case, you may be staying in one location for the whole trip. You're going to be there for 3, 4, 5 days. Now, most people probably will stay in simply one spot, but that doesn't keep you from planning activities that are going to fit into particular parts of the Strip. So you may have a day that you focus in on the South Strip. Perhaps you take a cab down to Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard. Spend some time exploring the different casinos in that area. Maybe have some, at least, provisional plans to eat at a particular restaurant. Spend some time gambling at a particular location. If there's a show that seems interesting to you in that area, again, bundle all that together. I've seen cases where people have very complex itineraries, and it will involve what seem like a lot of gymnastics just to get from one place to the other. They may be going to have dinner at Mandalay Bay, and then they're going downtown, or then they're going to hang out at Wynn for the night. Try to group your activities. You'll save a lot of time. You'll save a lot of money in travel costs back and forth. So that's a good general rule. If you've got 3 or 4 days, break up the trip into 3 or 4 major parts of Las Vegas that you want to see, and then try to do the things you want to do in those areas all on the same day. Okay, so what are the absolute must-sees when you go to Las Vegas? Well, I mentioned a couple of them. You pretty much have to check out the Bellagio fountains. Not everybody's as impressed by them as probably the average person is. If a particular show doesn't really seem to move you, well, maybe check out a couple. Most people find themselves in that center strip area going back and forth multiple times during a trip, so maybe check them out a couple of times. Some of the music works better with the fountains than others, so just keep that in mind. I talked about the volcano. If you're going to be in Vegas in the next few months, and we're here in early October of 2022, so remember that timestamp. But one of these days, the Mirage Volcano is going to go away, and it certainly is something that you're going to want to check out if you're going to be in town in the next 6 to 8 weeks for sure. I mentioned the downtown area, and this one may be a little bit more controversial. There's people that go to Las Vegas and rarely, if ever, visit the downtown, the Fremont Street area. To some folks, it's kind of, a little bit rough around the edges. Maybe they even feel like it's a little bit dangerous. It's certainly not as upscale. I mean, the vast majority of Fremont Street is not as upscale as the average sort of areas of the Las Vegas Strip. But I think if you're going to be in town, certainly 3, 4, 5 nights, certainly 4 or 5 nights, you owe it to yourself to spend a little bit of time down there. Most people always recommend going down at night, and I guess I do get that. I think it's worthwhile maybe being down there for an hour or so before the sun goes down, and then you can check out some of the light shows after the lights do go down. There's a lot of fun casinos, games to play, in addition to checking out the light show. Cheap eats, cheap drinks, better gambling odds. So I think it's definitely worth a few hours of your time, and you may not like it. If you don't enjoy it, then you don't really have to go back, but I do think it's something that's worth seeing as well. Just taking a walk up the Strip, I think, is an absolute necessity. Now, obviously, if you have issues with mobility, you can rent one of those lovely little scooters that were causing so much controversy a year or two ago, and they will help you get around pretty well. And you can get kind of a sense of it, I guess, just by getting in a rental car at a really busy time and slowly crawling your way up the Strip. Sometimes you'll be passed by pedestrians, but you owe it to yourself to really walk up and down the Strip and check things out. Again, you don't have to do it all at one time. You can do it in little segments like we talked about earlier, but I do think you owe it to yourself to check that out. We talked about this in one of our Vegas tips and tricks shorts, but definitely you want to find one or two places you can go to on the trip that are going to give you that sort of breathtaking view of Las Vegas. The one that comes to mind for me, I think probably my favorite, is the High Roller, that large observation wheel. It's kind of a giant Ferris wheel, I guess you'd say, in the LINQ Promenade. Definitely a worthwhile way to check out the Strip and much of the city. Probably best at night, unless you're like me and you like to see all the little daytime nuances, but definitely worth doing that. Maybe go up to the top of the Strat. It's the tallest observation deck west of the Mississippi, so you really do get a view not just of the Strip, but of the entire Las Vegas Valley, so it's pretty cool. And if you like thrill rides, there's 2 or 3 or 4 of them up there that probably rank as some of the scariest rides you'll find anywhere. Doesn't necessarily have to be a ride, though. There's a number of bars on the top of various hotel casinos. Mandalay Bay, Delano, Paris. You can check out the observation deck there, partway up the Eiffel Tower. There's just a lot of different places that you can see Las Vegas and get that really amazing view. It's something you absolutely have to do. Along with walking up and down the Strip, it's got to be one of the top activities that everybody needs to do in Las Vegas, and that is simply people watch. Day and night, it doesn't matter. There's people coming and going at all hours, and they can be as entertaining as anything, any show, any performance you see anywhere. So just keep an eye out for the people. There's some spots that you can go to where you can kind of just sit and watch people go by, whether it be inside a shopping area or some of the benches. I like the LINQ Promenade in addition to the downtown area, and even the park area by Park MGM in New York, New York. If you can get a seat during a particularly busy time, it's just fun to sit and watch people go by. In addition, I think it's worthwhile to at least try to attend one Las Vegas show. I mean, sort of the classic Las Vegas show right now is the Cirque shows. There's about 5 of them, I think, still active. That's definitely the show, or has been the show in Las Vegas for a couple of decades. You might check out one of the headliners like Lady Gaga or Katy Perry, people like that, if you're interested in that. And I think it's also worthwhile eating in a nice restaurant. It doesn't have to be super expensive, but if you check out at one of the steakhouses or just one of the celebrity restaurants, it just gives you a little bit of a feeling of doing something that you can't always do at home. All right, we're going to talk more about some things to do in Las Vegas next week, some more specific items. So make sure that you tune in for that. And of course, we'll have more Vegas tips and tricks throughout the week, Tuesday and Thursday, coming up as well. So I hope you can join us for that. So what do you think are some of the must things to do in Las Vegas? If you've got something that we didn't mention, please leave it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to read those and respond. Hey, if you're enjoying our program, make sure that you're hitting that like button, subscribing, and telling your friends, particularly if your friends are about to head off to Las Vegas. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for today. So I hope that you all have a great, lucky, and healthy week. We'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.